Well, Helen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today on Rewriting Midlife. I am so excited to have you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to talking with you.
Yeah, so you joined us for one of the early Savannah book crawls as one of our featured authors, and it was such a great day. I just really felt like you engaged all of our participants and shared a lot about not just the story, not just the storyline behind your book, but somewhat about your process. And there's so many reasons I think you're a perfect guest for this podcast, not just one because you're a great author, but also because we're talking about in this podcast sort of how do you navigate through midlife and some unexpecteds? And really, you had a major unexpected that happened to you. I mean, you've had quite an interesting journey in both your career and your personal life. You worked as a journalist for a couple of years, and then you became a victim advocate, which we'll talk more about later. But that career ended earlier than you wanted to at age 52. But then something really unexpected happened in your family shortly after that retirement. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I retired early from my long career as a victim advocate, and I was just flailing around, not knowing what was going to happen next because I had always been a career girl. 6 weeks later, we got a phone call at midnight, and we went and picked up our 2.5-year-old grandson. My stepson and his wife were not able to care for him. So at age 52, I became a first-time mom. Talk about a change. I had just left my career that I love, and I was, wondering what I was going to do next. And apparently, God had a plan. I was going to raise a child. Can you believe it?
Well, we have somewhat of there's some similar strings in our story. I think we talked about this on the crawl that, I started having kids early in life and thought I was done, done, done. And then surprise at, almost 40 years old, we had another baby. So, yeah, somebody said we make plans and God laughs. And I think that's
Exactly.
sometimes true.
That
So,
is
so you became a mom overnight and because you had not had any kids previously. This was your first child at 52. What were some of the biggest fears that you had to overcome during that transition?
well, I remember driving home that night. We didn't have a car seat in the car, and getting home and putting that little boy in between me and my husband in the bed and thinking, what in the world? We have a child that we may be keeping, and I have no idea what I'm doing. So the challenges were to overcome the fear and overcome the anxiety and just breathe into it and live into it and learn as you go along. And that's what we did. So got up the next day before my husband went to work, went to Walmart, bought all the things or a lot of the things, and started figuring out how to have a toddler. So I remember, that first day or two. So we get up and we play with trains and we play with trucks. And then it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what are we going to do the rest of the day? What's going to happen next? And I tried to get him to sleep, and I didn't really know any lullabies. So I'm singing ABBA music, to try to get him to sleep. Um, so it was a wild and crazy journey, but it's been worth every minute.
Wow. So you wrote an essay, which I love the title of this. It was called From High Heels to Hot Wheels. And it was you won first place, and it was a national contest out of 52 entries. And the theme of the essay, which I think is why you got it, was pivoting. What happens? How do you pivot in life? So you wrote about becoming a first-time mom at age 52, and you said it was uncomfortable for you to hang out with all the young moms at first, but then what did you realize that you had in common with the young moms?
Yeah, at first I was self-conscious going to the pool and birthday parties with these young moms with no wrinkles and flat bellies, and I had a belly and wrinkles. And so I was a little shy, but you know what? I realized we were all in this boat together. We were trying to figure out this wild and crazy journey called parenting. And so they just embraced me and included me in their events and their parties and discussions about parenting. And so I think we all learn from each other.
I bet. And you also mentioned in the article that 1 in 10 children live with grandparents. So that's a pretty it's a pretty high number if you think about it, 1 in 10. Um, did you ever find the support of other women in the same boat as you as a grandmother raising grandchildren?
Rebecca, when people found out that we were raising a grandchild, probably 75% of people said to me, "Oh, I know somebody who's raising a grandchild, my next door neighbor.
Mhm.
Oh, my parents are raising a grandchild. My sister-in-law is raising a grandchild." So certainly I found that we were not in this together. Uh, I mean, we were not in this alone. We were in it together. And one of the things that I think I may have on my mind is starting a support group one day for grandparents raising grandchildren because it is not uncommon at all. Um, I remember when we went to the courthouse to get guardianship, and the judge said this: "There's hardly a week that goes by that I'm not grateful for grandparents."
Mm.
Because she had seen that in family situations so many times that the grandparents are raising the grandkids.
I mean, I personally know several people who have had that
Hmm.
happen for different
Hmm.
reasons. So yeah, it's not all that uncommon. But still, what incredible courage and love it took for you to and faith really to
Yes.
just like you said, take it
Oh,
one day at a time and say, I have no idea what I'm doing, but this is what's in front of me that I feel like I'm supposed to do. And sometimes that's how you pivot is just one putting one foot right in front of the other each day, right?
yeah. And when we think about pivoting, there are so many times that we're required or forced to pivot because of something that happens, such as us getting a child or me having to leave a job suddenly, or a sickness or a divorce or whatever. Um, but we can also think of pivoting as things that we choose to do. So that's another way to think about pivoting, and particularly women in middle age and older. What is it that we want to do to change our lives in some small or big way?
I think this raises a really good point, Helen, because I think we have a choice to sort of see those pivots and sort of make ourselves a victim in those pivots. But
Yes,
like there's always a choice in every situation. There's a choice how we respond and how we react. So you could say,
exactly,
well, I did actually have a choice. I mean, I did choose to take this child, or if you
exactly,
have a diagnosis of cancer, I chose to fight for my health. There are choices that we
exactly,
make even when unexpecteds hit us. So I think it helps too to reframe it because it's easy to fall into that victim mentality. Well, I had to do it. Well, it was the right thing. So that really just disempowers you in the situation,
exactly.
and it's not good for anybody. It's not good for yourself or the people that you're helping to have that
You're
attitude.
right.
So you were always a good writer. You said you had a great English teacher who inspired you to write. And so, what inspired you to write this first novel? And I want to show everybody. Breach of Trust is Helen's debut novel. An incredible story. I could not put it down. I just could not wait to find out what was going to happen. It was excellent. I flew through it. It was just great. Wonderful storyline, great characters. What inspired you to take on a novel?
Well, soon after I left work early, before I had planned to retire, I wanted to volunteer, and I volunteered with a program called Deep. And one of the things that they do is they have a program where they mentor middle school students in writing. So they ask for writers to help these kids once a week, go and spend an hour or two at the school and just encourage them in their creativity and writing. So another volunteer and I did that every week. And every week I would see these kids, often from difficult backgrounds, share their stories. They're powerful, sometimes heart wrenching stories.
Golly.
And I looked at them and I thought to myself, you know what? If they can write and share their stories, it's time for me to do that now. So I was inspired by eighth graders and seventh graders to begin my journey of writing. I'd done a little writing, some essays and magazine articles, but I had certainly never tackled a novel before. But those kids inspired me.
I love that. I so love that. And I think so many people do have a story to tell. They just believe the lie that either they don't have the time or they can't or it doesn't matter or who would even read it. And and we need to fight against those lies. And like you said, I love that the kids inspired you because they were bravely telling their stories that were, like you said, some were probably very heartbreaking and hard to hear. But I love that. So you also had a writers group, right? That you credit with a lot of your
Yeah,
success.
actually, from that volunteer stint, um, they developed some writing groups for the summer, and there was a poetry group, a fiction group, and a nonfiction group. I went to the nonfiction group because I'd worked at a newspaper. But
Mhm.
at the end of that group, that summer, several of us decided to continue with our writing group. And I started writing fiction and started writing this novel. And it, Breach of Trust, my novel would not exist without my writing critique group. These three other women have been phenomenal in their expertise and support, and also it's helped keep me accountable, which is important.
Very important for all writers to have that accountability. So tell me about the I know you finally did get the novel written. Obviously, you released it in 2023. You said 2 weeks after your 64th birthday. Woo!
Yes.
Tell us the premise of the novel and how you use some of your real life experience to create the storyline.
Mhm. Breach of Trust is set in Savannah and Tybee, a novel in Savannah and Tybee, and it is about a woman named Anne Gardner, and she is the head of a crime victim assistance program in the district attorney's office in Savannah. She is thrown into a tailspin when her young employee accuses their boss, the district attorney, of sexual harassment. So Anne has to decide whether she's going to remain silent and keep the career that she's had and loved for decades, or is she going to try to expose this very powerful elected official? Um, this brings up some issues from her past, and it sends her on a harrowing journey of trying to decide what ethically to do and how to do it. It causes friction in her marriage. It causes her to, just have a moral dilemma as to what all to do because she feels like she can't really help her employees, but she's trying to. And so, while it sounds all very serious, as you know, because you read it, it has political corruption and crime and some serious stuff, but it also has some humor because the main character is zany and she has a very strong group of wonderful and wacky girlfriends, women friends who help her along this journey. So I loved it when people said to me, "Oh, this part was so funny," because I had worried that it was going to be so serious that people wouldn't like it. But it's got serious subjects as well as a fun tale about women and friendship.
I did love that. I also really loved it seems to me that you brought in a lot of your experience as a victim advocate into this because there were a lot of different stories about people who were in in hardships or in crises, and I just found those sub stories very interesting.
Yeah, I was a crime victim assistance director for many years. And of course, I didn't use a real victim story, but I used a compilation of some stories. There's domestic violence victim in there that has gotten a lot of attention from readers. So I certainly was inspired by my time as a victim advocate.
So Breach of Trust was very well received in the city. You got great reviews online as well. You've told me in previous conversations how supported you felt by the community. What was it like for you when you released this debut novel?
It was just beyond my wildest dreams. I just invited everybody I knew, from people at the gym to church to neighbors to people I ran into at yard sales. I invited everybody to my book launch
Yeah,
three
you want
years
the
ago and
shirt? Hey, come
said,
to my book launch.
exactly, I should have done that. So I invited everybody to come by and have a glass of wine and some snacks. You don't have to buy the book. Over 100 people showed up
That's
at
fantastic.
that book launch. And I was just completely taken aback and overwhelmed and honored. But people like others in the community to do well. So people showed up, most that I knew, some people that I didn't even know. So I have been supported. I have loved going to book clubs. It's one of my favorite things to do is to have a book club read Breach of Trust, and then we sit around and talk about it and have snacks. It's so much fun. I can even do those virtually. I've done one with, on Zoom with people from out of state. So I had no idea that the community that I was going to find myself in was going to be so supportive. I've met people like you and just, oh, had the best time. And I really didn't expect all that. So it's been
I love seeing,
fun.
as you know, as someone who helps people publish their books, it is always it's so much fun to watch because people get so focused on finishing the book, finishing the book, finishing the book. And you've read the book a million times, you're sick of the book, you don't want to see it
Oh,
anymore. And right, you're
I was
like,
sick
please don't
of
make
it.
me read this book again. But you get the book
Exactly.
out and you're just like, when you start, people start enjoying it and getting, if you start getting that feedback, and then I get the feedback from the feedback, and it's so much fun. It really is. It's oftentimes so much sweeter and richer than people expect when people start reading the book,
Yes.
enjoying it, and coming back and saying, "Oh, I love this character," or this part really just I love that part. It was so great. So it sounds like you had that same experience where you were so focused on finally finishing the book, but then seeing everyone receive it, enjoy it, come back to you and talk about it has just been wonderful.
It has been so much fun. And I'm glad you pointed out that I turned 64 2 weeks after the book got published because I encourage people, no matter what age you are, you can follow your dream, follow your passion, whatever that is. You are never too old to do that. I remember one time my grandson we were at a birthday party for my sister who was turning 60, and she was whining and she said, "Oh, I feel so old. I'm getting old." And little Joseph looked at her and said, "You're not old, you're an adult." And I decided that means if you're an adult, you're just an adult. We don't have to worry about are you old or middle age or elderly. So I have remembered that ever since. That
I love that.
hey,
I'm so glad you
that's
brought
a
up.
great.
It is a great perspective. So tell us, how old is Joseph now and how is he doing?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Rebecca. He turned 18 years old 2 weeks ago. He's about to graduate from high school and will be starting college. And knock on wood and praise the Lord, he's doing well. It doesn't mean there haven't been ups and downs as happens with anybody, but he is doing quite well. And we could not be prouder of him. I wish I could show you a picture of him. Let's see if I can find this on my phone real
I
quick.
bet you'll be able to find it quickly. Well, that's an amazing story. I love hearing that he's graduated. He's doing well. I'm sure he's equally as proud of. Oh, look at him.
Can you
Yes, I see
can you
him.
see?
Very handsome. Very handsome. So he's on his way to college. I'm sure he's is just as proud of you as you are of him with all of your accomplishments as well. And I love that yeah, I love that the depth of generosity and love that I mean again, families sometimes do what they have to do, but it sounds like this has just been a blessing in so many ways.
It has. We have
Mm.
been mighty blessed and had a lot of people surround us, supporting us and loving us. And what a wild journey. If somebody had told me before all this happened that I was A, not going to be working full time, B, I was going to be raising a grandchild, three, writing a book, and also I have a side business. I'm a wedding officiant. So all
That's
those
right.
things
That's right.
I
You
would
do
never
weddings. And
Savannah
wait,
Simple
so
Weddings.
you do weddings, but someone else do you have a associate or something that does another part of it?
Well, my sister used to do photography, but
Your
she's not
sister.
doing that anymore. So
Okay.
it's just, I do weddings in Forsyth Park and at the beach, and it's usually small weddings, but it's been fun. It's really been fun.
I love that. So is there another novel in the works?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Can you tell
I,
us anything about it or is it top secret?
no, it's not top secret. There is another novel in the works, and you will not be surprised to know that it is about raising a grandchild.
All
It's going
right.
to be total fiction. This one is not based on really true events, but it's certainly inspired by raising a grandchild. So it's the same main character, Anne Gardner, but it's not a continuation of the story in Breach of Trust. It is Anne Gardner is later in her life, and she and her husband are raising a child after his parents were killed in a car accident.
Oh,
So
wow. That is
that's what
exciting.
it's about.
You're
Yes.
continuing on with the same writers group and they're keeping you on track
Yes.
and that's fantastic.
Couldn't do without them. Couldn't do without them.
So what encourage I mean you kind of already encouraged us, but what final encouragement would you give to women who maybe have dreams in their heart, but they feel like, oh, I had that, but it's too late, or I'm too old, or fill in the blank, to whatever, to worry about that anymore? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say live boldly, age boldly, do what you want to do. That essay contest was for women 45 or older, and they just inspired me. This group travels and does all this. It's called Next Tribe. So what I would say to people is believe in yourself. And you know what? As we get older, I found I am wiser.
Mm,
I've had more experience, and I really feel like I'm happier than I was when I was 28 years old. So, and feel confident in yourself. Do not get all of your um, accolades from the outside. You've got to know what your own worth is and
mm,
believe in that. And you know what? Don't take yourself too seriously. I used to take myself so seriously it was ridiculous. Now I can laugh a lot, and sometimes I have to. So, what do
I
you
love that.
think?
I love that. I think a lot of it is the things. I think the most important stories are the ones we tell ourselves, and I think
Yes.
we can chew on the narratives that are fed to us, which is that, I mean, I think I read a book recently by Brooke Shields. And I can't remember the title of it, but she was talking about the idea that, women in their 50, 40s, 50s, and 60s are the biggest, they have the most expendable income, and yet they're the least represented in like commercials and, like
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
TV and ads, so we're still seeing like very young women, even though it's our age group that are actually doing most of the purchasing and buying. And so she was talking, there was a lot of other angles she was taking with the book, but it was interesting to hear her perspective because she was talking about going out with her two, younger daughters, and people saying, "Oh, your daughters are beautiful." And they turn to the daughters and say, "Your mother used to be so beautiful." And I thought, people, first of all, that is
Oh,
so rude. So rude.
yes, it is.
But yeah, so I think not chewing on the lines that were fed, and there's a lot of lines being fed to us about aging as women. I also agree that I feel like I'm in the best decade of my life, in my 50s. I'm happier than I've ever been. I feel more meaning.
Yes.
I don't stay stuck as long. I'm not saying I don't still get stuck, but I don't
Okay.
stay stuck
Right.
because I just don't have time. I don't have time to waste. So I'm just yeah, I think part of that, like you said, is not taking yourself so seriously, learning to laugh at yourself. We're going to make mistakes. Don't be a perfectionist. Don't beat yourself up.
Exactly.
So I think all that is stuff that's learned with age, experience. But yeah, I love what you said. So you're going to be featured in our upcoming book crawl. You're going to be one of our readers again, which I'm so excited about. On May 2nd, you're going to read in Madison Square. So I just want to tell everybody who's listening, please come out and meet Helen, get a copy of her amazing book, Breach of Trust. Helen, if for some reason they can't make the crawl, where else can we find out more about your work and get a copy of your book?
I have a website, helenpbradley.com. That P in the middle is P as in people, helenpbradley.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Helen P. Bradley, author. And my book is available at the independent bookstores, which Saturday coming up is Independent Bookstore Day.
That's
So
right.
I'm at the Stacks, and I am also at the Book Lady, and several other places on Wilmington Island, such as Ace Hardware, believe it or not. And of course, you
Hey,
can get it
I
at
love me some Ace
Amazon.
Hardware. Have you been to the Berwick
Oh,
Ace Hardware? My Ace Hardware is
no,
the
but
bomb. It is the
okay. But
best.
I
Okay.
bet my Islands one is really good too.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have an ace off. We'll have to like compare. We'll have to figure
Yeah.
this out because mine has gifts and all kinds of stuff from the Savannah Bee Company. I mean, it's like you can go there for
Close.
everything. You can go there for everything and anything.
It's true. So, and of course, it's available on Amazon. And if you're local to Savannah, heck, I've got plenty of them in my garage. So I can meet you somewhere or mail you the book, perhaps. So it's available lots of places, but I encourage people to support their independent bookstores.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing you out at the crawl Saturday after this. And also, congrats on the book and on the upcoming one. We can't wait to continue following your journey. Thank you for the time today again and for all the encouragement that you offered.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It was a pleasure.